This is IBM Museum, and I have another unboxing. And this time it is a little bit more focused on the IBM side. In fact, it deals with the IBM mid-range or the mini computers. System 34, 36, 38, and the AS400. In this case, particular to the AS400. So let me get the webcam here switched off, get around to the camcorder view. And this is very applicable to the AS400 that I have down here, that iSeries AS400. And this is in fact probably the one of the specific adapters that goes on that unit. And masked out the addresses again, and somebody sent me confetti, which is normally pretty good packaging, actually. It does get everywhere and make a mess, and I know it's just this single adapter that is in here. There's not going to be anything else. And, you know, this material, even as such, there's rats around here that just love to have that as nesting material. Saves them a little bit of time chewing up stuff to make the nest. But within the bubble wrap here, and then within anti-static wrap, and it's still pretty good conditions for being kind of dry in the winter, to be able to open this and just see a little bit of what I'm looking at here. And I wanted to see if I don't think it actually has a number. Normally this would be marked number to identify it, a 4-digit encoding. And I looked through my manual a little bit earlier, and I didn't see something right off the bat that told me. And then just looking at the chips, and of course this one chip has a heat sink on it. Huh. And so look at that trace in the PCB. It just winds around, and it goes between those two sets, the 3x4 pads. They're in each place. Even who knows what is for that area. And then there's even a little bit of pads there that go to that lower chip with the heatsink. A little bit closer view of some of the oscillators components. It's got entirely blank areas of the PCB though, and then there's an FCC ID. And ANO is the IBM FCC ID, the start of all their FCC IDs, and it's got IBM even in copper in that corner. And we see a little bit more of the colorization, and I see this a lot of time on microchannel adapters on the what would be the top edge of them. They have paint bands of either typically 2, but sometimes more, and even sometimes markings on them, and not figured out what it is. And of course, the bracket and the form factor of the adapter look very familiar to many people, because it's a PC style bracket and it's a PCI adapter. even though, I guess we can go through and show the back. And that could be the numbering. That 2720 label, I'll bet you is the card ID of what this is. Because it's PCI for all that, because the iSeries AS400s were a Netfinity chassis and CPUs, x86 CPUs, just that they configured, they modified for the AS400. And this is the Twin-Ax workstation connector. That's where I've done those hydras in the past. I did that 4-port Twin-Ax Hydra. I did all the pinout and everything else in a previous video. And that's what goes to the 9-pin port. And I just had an opportunity to pick up this adapter for pretty cheap. And I even almost know what that well, I can't tell if that's a pad or that's thermal. And it's even funny, it has an IBM FRU, that 99F1719 on the heatsink. And I think that'd be the heat for the heatsink itself. But I can't tell if that's a pad underneath the heatsink or sometimes there's chips that had a little kind of metallic circular piece that was on top of them, just as kind of like a heat spreader sort of thing. And I don't know right off the top of my head of what this other port is effectively, of what it does. And that chip seems to be tied in, and that might give a little bit of a clue. There's some unpopulated areas. But just showing a little bit more detail of what that chip looks like to maybe give a little bit of a clue of what that port is. I just know it mainly for it being the Twin-Ax Hydra connection for the iSeries in that 9-pin port. So that's another unboxing, and certainly was enough of an informative video for me to get my hands on that directly. I didn't want to go through and have my AS400 powered down and pull out those adapters and everything else and kind of disrupt things as it is. But that's a closer view of what that adapter is. And there's probably not anything where to diagram it out or to, to figure out chips and everything else to go through and dissect it in a way. I have it around, and it just is maybe a little bit of study later on to what some of the chips that were used in that were. So if you thought that this video was informative, that you enjoyed it, click on that like button please, and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. But this is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.